What's up, everybody? My name is Patrick Minucci. I'm your cannabis engineer, your informational weed man, and today I'm back with a good video. And based on the title, it basically states how the cannabis industry is rigged and how basically you can get through it. So, again, this is a topic that's basically dear to me, an important solution. So, let's get into it. So recently there was basically this program called the Patriot Act, hosted by Hassan Minaj. Brilliant show. It basically delved into the cannabis industry and basically how the cannabis industry is basically rigged. And with the video, with the topic in hand and the video and the discussion, I definitely agree in how that has basically changed and how the industry is continually changing. And my goal now is to provide a solution for it. So again, the Patriot Act, go watch the show on the cannabis industry and watch on how that basically how the cannabis industry is constantly evolving into an industry that excludes a lot of individuals, especially individuals of color. And so to go beyond that, so how do you basically navigate through it? So first things first, I got to discuss what's going on and all that, and especially currently in the cannabis space. The cannabis industry, with the effect of COVID-19, has basically seen the good and the bad. You've seen a lot of good, a lot of bad in terms of some big name brands such as Mad Men has basically closed down some of their stores and some of their manufacturing and operations in different countries, especially in Africa and all that. I'll delve into why that happened and discuss on how they could have navigated that arena, but just the big picture, they basically closed down most of their operations. And also, you've seen some of the operations also closing down in the United States and also losing big money, and you've seen profit margins reduce. But in the other good news, you've seen sales cannabis skyrocket in terms of individuals trying to basically purchase cannabis itself. And it's basically you've seen basically lines and lines in dispensary, individuals trying to buy cannabis. And with the global recession coming up and all that, you see cannabis as a product that basically will withstand the recession and all that. But that's just it. But the cannabis industry is thriving, and it's gonna continue to thrive. It's gonna thrive like the alcohol market, the tobacco market. It's going to continue thriving, and it's going to become big. It's estimated to be, I think, 20 billion by 2022. So it's going to be a huge market. And now, what I'm going to be talking about is how it's rigged. In terms of cannabis itself, in terms of growing, cultivating, processing, all that, the fee to entry is basically required. It's a huge fee of entry, because you have to purchase licenses, and each state provides the cost of the license, how they provide the license, what they do with the license. Each state individually basically decides how much those licenses are, who can afford it, and all that. And if you look at the prices, these are huge prices just to enter the market. And again, that's the physical market. I always differentiate between ancillary and physical market where you directly touch it. And within that market, African Americans or individuals of color basically account for 4.3% of the market, of the United States market, of the legal weed market. That's 4.3%. And it's, if you look at the laws especially within the states, especially within profits, and especially within trying to get a license, you can, before you even get a license, you need to have you need to basically purchase, basically be a pre-operation. So if you're trying to go into a dispensary, you need to basically purchase some of your, either the store, basically cameras and all that, to prove that this business is going to basically start and go, and then you can get a license. So, and the amount to just start operating for a dispensary or cultivation can run you from 500,000 to millions. And there again, with another hurdle with it, there is no physical bank that's basically going to give you a loan for a dispensary or anything regarding cannabis, because it's still federally legal. So that's a huge hurdle. The state is basically requiring you to have all this operating cost, all these huge licensing fees and all that. And at the same time, you have no banks affording to give you any loans or any business SBA loan or anything. So now you're facing two hurdles. You're facing profit margins and license, and profit margins from operation costs and profit margins for the profits for the license. So money for the license and money for the operating cost. And you invest in this money without ever seeing a profit yet. So then once you get your license, then you start the operation, then you start seeing profit. But before then, you're not seeing a profit. You're still in the negative. And again, individuals of color don't have millions of dollars basically stashed away just to basically start an operation itself. And that's where the disadvantage comes in. And even though individuals talk of giving licenses on a set basis, they basically, states now have required ways to give licenses on a discount for individuals of color. Basically, there's a stipulation in there that individuals who were affected by laws and mandates of the cannabis laws, especially legal laws that have affected individuals of color. They have a stipulation in each state. Some states have a stipulation on providing individuals of color basically loans or ways to basically enter the industry, make it more easier. But it's not more easier. It's even hard, because you still need to have a little bit more money for the operation costs and all that. So it's still difficult, and this is where the problem comes in. The laws and the regulations around cannabis are not favoring the individuals of color, and not individuals of color, but individuals who have they don't have enough money to basically start a cannabis business, or basically invest in operating a cannabis grower or cannabis dispensary, or even an processing plant. So they don't have enough money just for the operation, and they don't even have enough money for the license, even though you give them a discount. The grand scheme of it is the laws, and also the laws are always ever changing. So for packaging, if you're in a dispensary, your packaging, basically the laws around surrounding even packaging changes on a week to week basis. And if you violate the laws, you are basically given a fine, or basically your license might be revoked. So these are the huge problems. The huge problems are the laws surrounding cannabis and the banking surrounding cannabis. We don't have loans for cannabis industry. We don't have anything, and we don't have. The laws are not in favor of individuals of color or individuals who couldn't afford it. So the laws and the banking are the two biggest obstacles in trying to get into the cannabis space. So now and again, the Patriot Act, that talks in detail, and I want to talk in more detail on how the laws are, because I read the laws, especially within California, Colorado. Currently, I'm reading laws in Chicago, Illinois. I'm reading all these laws, and each law, the stipulation in terms of licensing, in terms of operation cost and everything, it's too expensive and it's too steep for the average person who wants to get in the industry, So what are the solutions in getting in the industry? And the greatest solution, I always say, it's not touching the plant, it's assisting in the cultivation dispensary, in any part of the plant, without actually touching it. And that's the ancillary business. And I always say the solution comes in, I always believe the solution comes in two folds. The first is understanding the cannabis industry. And when I say understanding cannabis industry, I don't mean knowing what type of strain and the effect of it on one type of strain on the psychoactive effects of a strain on your body. That's not knowing the cannabis industry. That's just knowing. Hey, that weed is a good type of weed to get you high. So that's not knowing the cannabis industry. Knowing the cannabis industry is knowing in depth, knowing the physiological effect of cannabis on your body, knowing the pharmacology of the cannabis plant itself, knowing how the cannabis plant is grown, knowing every stage of the cannabis plant, from growth, from seed to processing to basically the final solution where it hands into the customer. That whole process, you need to understand it. You need to understand, again, another part, you need to understand the laws around the cannabis industry. I mean, you need to understand laws from your state. You need to understand laws regarding federal laws regarding cannabis, the ones in the United States and the ones in Canada. So a couple of laws that might be coming into regulations in terms of cannabis, some like the bill dealing with monetary concerns and banking. All these are just coming through the legislations. So all these laws are basically in the cannabis, are currently in trying to be looked at by the Senate and House of Representatives on cannabis laws and basically cannabis laws regarding monetary, business, banking, and all that. These laws are currently in the House of Rep and currently in the Senate. There's also talk about basically the Fed or the FDA or I think DOJ or so, one of those organizations being sued on declassifying cannabis from a Schedule 1 to a lower schedule. It's involved like in declassifying it from Schedule 1 to maybe a more of an alcohol schedule. So they're basically looking at a lawsuit. And when I was looking at a lawsuit, they're using 4 different claimers to claim that classification of cannabis as a Schedule 1 is currently not feasible at this point. And I'm going to be watching out on that lawsuit. If they can basically if they can declassify cannabis from a Schedule 1 to a lesser schedule to a tobacco, that's going to be a huge win for the cannabis industry. So that's just one part. Understanding the laws around the cannabis industry, everything regarding cannabis industry, from the seed to farming to processing to dispensary to when it reaches the customer's hand. Every part of it. You need to understand the pharmacology of the cannabis plant. You need to understand the physiology of the cannabis plant. You need to understand the chemistry components of the chemical. And I'm saying this because it's important. Because right now, the laws are against individuals who do not have access to the cannabis industry. The laws are against you in terms of monetary, in terms of banking. The laws are against you. But again, you can go into it utilizing the ancillary market that supports the market that supports where you directly touch the plant itself. You can go into the marketing aspect. You can go into the security aspect. You can go to the technology aspect, which I'm trying to get more involved in, designing technology around the cannabis industry. You can go into different markets consulting. You can do a lot. But the goal is to get in the industry by utilizing your current skill and current knowledge. And again, increasing your knowledge about the cannabis plant does not hurt you. It just aids you more. So, solution. If you can't get into the market where you touch it, where you basically sell it, where you process it, where you grow it, the next best thing is to get into the ancillary market. That market is not saturated. The market needs a lot of help and a lot of support. Again, the way you get into the market is by increasing your knowledge about the cannabis industry, by looking at, again, two folds: everything regarding the cannabis itself, plant itself, everything regarding not just strain and how high it can get you. I mean every part of the cannabis itself. And secondly, the laws concerning cannabis. You need to understand the laws. You need to read the laws. You need to be able to know the law and know what's going on. These are the laws are the governing body of the cannabis industry. You understand the laws, again, knowledge is power. You understand the laws around cannabis industry, you can move swiftly. And if you can move swiftly, you can also utilize your knowledge of what you do, what your skill is. Again, if you're HVAC repairer, if you know how cannabis works and everything, you know everything about the cannabis plant itself, and you can install HVAC to basically help promote growth of the cannabis plant. The goal again is the laws and the system around the cannabis industry are rigged. It's given. But to get over it, you need to have a plan. And the plan is, I'm giving you my plan. Understand every part of the cannabis plant. I have books on tapes. I have books, not on tapes, books on Audible. I have books on Audibles. I have paperback books. I have every book on everything about cannabis, pharmacology, every aspect of cannabis. And also, I'm understanding every part of law in the cannabis industry. I'm reading laws, what's going on. I'm reading papers on the cannabis. So your goal is to understand everything and create an environment in the cannabis space where you can thrive. The cannabis industry is rigged. I'm not going to lie to you. But you can still succeed without touching the plant. You can succeed in the ancillary market. You can be creative. You can do a lot of stuff right now because this is an emerging market. Again, cannabis industry, Patriot Act delves in it beautifully. It's rigged, but you can still win by understanding every aspect of the plan, understanding every process of the plan, understanding every laws governing the plan, and then utilizing what you know, your knowledge base, your domain knowledge, and driving it into the cannabis space, and then winning. So, my name is Patrick Onochi. I'm your cannabis engineer, your informational weed man, and I'll be dropping more videos. So, peace.